Strategy, strategy, strategy.
We're here to talk about draft strategies.
That's right.
Drop that intro. And welcome back to a Standard Fantasy Football podcast. I'm your host, Jono.
And I'm your host, Chris.
And we are bringing draft strategy episode to you today. Talk about some things that we like going into this year. If you were part of our subscriber list last year and you watched the episode on draft strategies, there's a lot more strategies that were available, in my opinion, last year with the way people were drafting versus this year. I think you can be successful any which way you want, and it also can help out depending upon where you're at in the draft. But there's a couple of draft strategies that I'm not recommending that you do in this year's draft just based on where ADP is for players and where the talent really is too.
I've always found like draft strategy to be really hindsight. Like, oh, I did that. I never gone into a draft being like, this is what I'm going to do.
That's false. You heard it here, folks.
It's
in the past, Chris. He was a big running back. There were multiple drafts he did 3 in a row. And yeah, some of it's because of what fell to you.
Exactly.
I will give you that.
Exactly. So
but you committed to that strategy when it fell to you.
Well, it did, but I didn't go into it being like, I'm going to take 3 running backs right off the board.
No, and I'm not saying I'm not recommending anybody go into a draft with a strategy. If the strategy falls into your lap.
Yeah, it just so happens that you start to see that around like pick 4. What that strategy ends up being, and then you're like, all right, well, like I need to kind of recover from this, and you got to like shift away from taking value and really start filling out your team. Like if you're going to go running back heavy or wide receiver heavy is a big thing now.
Zero RB.
So if you're going to go and do that, like you got to at pick 4 and pick 5, you need to reevaluate your team, and you should be reevaluating your team every pick and say, this is what my team looks like. Where are my needs? Right? What's coming off the board? Do I have a quarterback yet? Do I have a tight end yet? What do I want from a tight end? You need to set parameters for yourself, but work within those parameters. So if you are saying, this is the last tight end I want to have fall to me, then you better go and pick a tight end before that guy comes off the board. Same thing with quarterback is like this is the bar that I'm setting.
Yeah, it's my threshold here.
Whether it's Jordan Love or whether you want a top end quarterback and you're saying if CJ Stroud's the last person I'm going to take off the board. If anyone after him, like I'm going to be unhappy with my team. And you shouldn't think that way. But I think there are interesting quarterback strategies this year because in the past we've always been like, oh, go get one of the top end guys. Go get one of the top end guys. I'm starting to like I haven't done it in a lot of recent drafts, but I'm starting to think that you can fade quarterback in this year's draft.
Interesting.
And I think that
I think you can too.
I think that there are rookies, like there are guys that you can get in the 12th and 13th round, and you can go and get Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, and like don't tell me that both of those guys aren't going to be top 15 quarterbacks.
Correct. I just think there's such a drop off from the top.
Is there though?
Yeah, I think there is with the rushing upside. I mean, there's I think a couple that are up at the top. I think Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Do I think that someone like Jaden Daniels can find himself up in that category? Do I think Kyler Murray can find himself back up in that category? I think I can, and you get those guys a lot later too.
Yeah. So the drop off from Josh Allen to like Kyler Murray is about 4 or 5 rounds. Then the drop off from Kyler Murray to Aaron Rodgers and Stafford is another 7 rounds beyond that.
Yeah,
the value you can get from up top at the position players by not going and getting a quarterback is tremendous. I mean, you can go and stack up there for the season, and if you hit on those picks or on most of those picks, it doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. You're going to be throwing up points. I mean, Goff is going in the 11th round. You can go and get guys like that. Like you can go and set your bar and like I'm going to get Jaden Daniels in the 9th round, and that's going to be my starting quarterback, and that's the first quarterback I'm going to have come off the board.
Yeah, and I'd be listen. It's a risk you take, but it's a high output risk because the rushing upside is there. I mean, really, the hard part is if you're going to go with a quarterback that is not going to have the rushing upside, they need to be an over 4,000-yard passer. They need to eclipse the 30-point mark for them to really hit into that top 10 range for you to really get the best value out of it. And do I think someone like Aaron Rodgers could do it? Yeah. Do I think someone like Matt Stafford? Yeah. Kirk Cousins? Yeah. Like that's what you're talking about. There's people that,
I'm saying
you
get two of those guys, and then you're going to be sitting pretty where if you do play your matchups right, you're getting the
consistency.
You're
anyway.
getting the consistency. I mean, you can go and get 30 points every week from those two guys.
Yeah.
It's a matter of which one of them is going to hit those 30 points this week.
Well, let's jump into draft strategy. Let's go zero RB strategy, because this is one that you really could do this year, because I think you get some of these older running backs that have dropped down significantly in their ADPs. You have some big time zero RB candidates like James Conner. Even Alvin Kamara is right in that ADP range. Let's pull up the draft board that we had from one of our previous drafts and just take a look at it.
We're wearing Mets colors.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
I should change. So we'll take a look at it here. You're the one who actually did the zero RB strategy here.
Yep.
Starting at the 8th pick here with A.J. Brown. You had, I almost said Antonio Brown. A.J. Brown. You went quarterback early, so we'll harp on the QB premium after we talk about zero RB. But look at what Chris was able to do. He has 3 top targets in terms of Collins, Pittman, A.J. Brown. And he went with that 5th pick, which is, if you go zero RB, 5th pick could be considered a little early for a zero RB strategy. But to me, that's the perfect time in this draft to trigger and go grab a running back, because you get Aaron Jones, James Conner, Kamara as those big guys there. Even Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, and Ramondre Stevenson are in the next rounds. Those are the guys that you can pretty much anchor on your team as your first running back and be happy with it. Anything past that, Zamir White, Najee Harris, maybe Mostert too, are the last ones that I'm trusting myself in round 7. So you could go as deep as round 7 without a running back and still be able to grab somebody. And look at what you're able to get in those first 5 to 6 rounds. Kittle is in the 6th round for Chris. If he didn't go Connor there, he could have went and picked Tank Dell instead. He could have taken T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk, and really had 4 solid wide receivers. Or he could have went with Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott as his first quarter. He took Allen early. Sorry. He could have taken even Kyle Pitts if he liked him instead of Kittle, and still gotten good wide receiver picks. The thing to go zero RB is an actual opportunity if the wide receivers fell like they did for Chris. The fact that Collins fell to him 8th pick in the 3rd round, I would have done the same thing as you. I would have faded the running back pick there because I would have saw the value in Collins. And then Pittman was still sitting there for you, and Metcalf. Those 2 guys, opportunities, why not? Now you solidify your starting wide receiver roles.
Yeah, and so, again, going into this, I don't think I intended on going zero running back when we drafted this. And it just kind of happened that way. It's like, all right, well, I didn't really like any of the wide receivers that I don't know. I did intentionally go.
You said
zero,
it. You said
zero
it as soon as AJ Brown was there, and you were seeing Brees Hall, AJ Brown. You're like, you know what? I'm going to go zero RB here.
Yeah,
and you just did it.
So I did like at that 2nd pick, obviously Derrick Henry, Saquon, ETN. I like those guys there, but the wide receivers I really didn't like there. Olave, Ayuk, Evans, Debo. I knew that I was going to have at least one of those guys, Collins. One of those guys was going to fall to me in the 3rd at that point. But getting Josh Allen there, fine. When I made my first running back pick here, I had Kamara and Aaron Jones go right before me. And I think that's what kind of stimulated all right, my first running back off the board, I got to have a guy that's going to have volume.
Yeah.
I got to have a guy I wanted a veteran. I wanted a guy that was in a good offense, that had volume. Connor was my last guy of that. And I'm glad I went with him, because after that it was, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, and Ramondre Stevenson, the next 3 guys to go. So if I don't get Connor there and I go and get Tank Dell or T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, one of those guys, I'm not going to get Connor in the next round there.
No, but I would have been very comfortable if I was in your shoes and Stevenson was the guy I took afterwards. But then you don't get Kittle.
But I don't get Kittle there.
Yeah.
Right? And so I got Kittle, and I was like, all right, I'm set. And you got to remember too, like, and this is kind of what I was thinking is like, all right, I can't start more than 3 wide receivers anyway. So
In the format we were drafting.
format that we were drafting. So why am I going to go and draft 6 elite wide receivers and keep 3 on the bench on that?
Well,
when I can go later on and get a lot of wide receivers with high upside.
Yeah.
That are going to be on my bench that can break out.
Well,
which is what I did.
In my opinion, though, if we were playing a 3 wide receiver with 2 flexes or anything like that, I easily would have probably faded James Conner there and went Ramondre the next round and gotten that 4th receiver. I wouldn't have went Tank Dell because you already had Nico Collins, but I would have went T. Higgins right there easily and given myself that 4th guy. But as you can see what Chris did, once he committed to that type of draft strategy, he went right in. He has 5 running backs still on his roster. It's not like he didn't go running back at all. And the 5 running backs he took, you got James Conner, high volume. Zamir White, high volume. Zach Moss, potential high volume. Chuba Hubbard, early season high volume. Algier is a great backup that's going to get opportunities. And if anything were to happen to Bijan, high volume.
You mean split competition in the backfield?
Yeah. But if you look at it, so he passed up.
Sorry, I guess it's a Bijan show there.
He passed up on people like Nick Chubb. He passed up on people like Eckler, Warren, Benson, like
Pollard, Spears,
he tried
avoiding those kind of situations is paramount.
Even Jonathan Brooks and like he took away the people who have potential to maybe have a breakout season or maybe have a big opportunity or gain a larger role in their offenses to get something that were more sure bets, because that's what you need when you go in a 0 RB. You want to get guys like Singletary and Zamir White and James Conner and Ramondre Stevenson that we know they're the RB1, they're majority volume. There's other people are going to sprinkle in, but it's their backfield.
Yeah, I mean, even Brian Robinson, I think, is a good 0 running back strategy guy. Rico Dowdle, I think, is a good one for later on. Zeke is going to be a guy that's going to be touchdown dependent. If as a 3rd running back, I wouldn't mind grabbing him. Like, I'm not going to say he's going to have a LeGarrette Blount type season, but he could have like Jamal Williams from a couple years ago, where he falls.
Gus Edwards last year.
Yeah, they just fall in. They don't have a lot. They're not breaking 1,000 yards, but they might have 12+ touchdowns just by falling.
Well, and they could possibly break 1,000 yards with a 17-game season too now. But
maybe,
but they don't need to because they fall in for double-digit touchdowns.
Right, and it might be a guy that he just gets you a touchdown every week, and from at least from the standard scoring, your benchmark is 10 points.
Yeah.
Right. So if you got a guy that gets a touchdown, you're already 6 points there.
Yeah.
So you need 40 yards of assorted other, either receiving, rushing, and you're going to be fine. If you get 10 points at every position, you're going to be good.
Yeah. And the thing Chris did too, what he did with the wide receivers, he alluded to it a little bit earlier, was he took 3 solid starters and then he took 3 people with high upside breakout candidate opportunities. And that's Jameson Williams, Rashid Shaheed, and the rookie Keon Coleman to match up with Josh Allen. 3 receivers, when he took them, he obviously had people around him. Like he could have taken Cortland Sutton as his 4th wide receiver instead of Coleman, but he took Coleman for the high upside. He could have taken somebody like Jacoby Myers, a solid wide receiver 2. He could have taken Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, these other wide receiver 2s, but he took the upside for a breakout candidate Williams and Shaheed and the home run hitting upside too as well there. So I honestly like what he was able to do. I like the team management that he did. And again, you can see what you did. So let's move into not just the 0 RB. Let's talk about quarterback premium. And you took a quarterback here, 5th pick of the 2nd round. What's too early in this year's draft for you for a quarterback?
I mean, nothing's too early. I would say 1st round is too early.
Okay, I'm agreeing with you because I was about to say
the 1st round is too early.
Okay.
Early 2nd round is too early. There's still a lot of talent still on the board. I mean, even where I took Allen there in this draft, like again, I wouldn't have done that. I really didn't like doing that. I would have taken Saquon there. I would have taken Derrick Henry there. I would have taken ETN there. There's a lot of guys that would have taken over him. I would have let him fall to someone else. And same thing with Hurts, Mahomes, Lamar. I've taken a lot of those guys, but I think 3rd and 4th round, I think, is the earliest I'm willing to put stock in a quarterback. And that's if the right guy falls to me and if I really love my first 2 picks. So if I walk away from having, like Team 9, if I'm Team 9 and I walk away for the first 2 rounds with Breece Hall and Marvin Harrison, I'm like, I'm good. I'm good at those 2 positions.
Yeah.
I can go and get Lamar. I can go and get Mahomes if I wanted to. And then I'm fine with getting either one of those guys over Stephon Diggs because I know that I can go and follow it up with other guys.
Well, here's my opinion. I agree with you here. So had you not taken Josh Allen and you went Saquon, London went next, then Henry. Henry's my kind of cutoff point in that second round before I start to entertain the Josh Allen pick.
You still take Josh Allen over ETN?
I am because most likely I've taken a running back here or a top tier wide receiver, and I'm still going to get Pacheco, Jacobs, Achane, one of these guys on that swing around here because you're taking Allen right around here. London, I'm not taking him before Allen. I think his ADP is still too high. There's a chance Olave because I think he has an opportunity to break out this year. But really, Saquon Henry is like the end of that second round picks where you're like, okay, I'll take him in the 9th pick of the second round. So right around the 4th pick in the draft, your second pick is right around where I'm looking at it because, again, look what you can still grab in the running back position afterwards as your RB1. But again, you're probably taking Saquon or Henry's just before you, and you could have taken McCaffrey or Tyreek or CD right here, and you're still good. Doing it where you did there, you crafted a very good team still. But you had to change your strategy in like rounds 5 through 8 in really what you wanted to target because of what you did on the top end. And that's fine once you commit to it.
Well, it goes back into just reevaluating like and you can do multiple strategies within a draft, reevaluate after every pick. And it's like, what does your team need? Where is the value on the board? What's coming to me? And so again, Josh Allen goes, I take Josh Allen, and I'm saying I don't need to worry about quarterback the rest of the draft.
Yeah.
And that's the value on getting guys like Kittle and getting some of these tight ends too, is that it's a position you just don't have to worry about. It's a set it and forget it type of position.
Yeah.
If you have set it and forget it, the goal is for your entire lineup to be set it and forget it. You shouldn't have to go and have these matchup-based choices.
That should happen when you have injuries.
It should happen when you have injuries and bye weeks,
Yeah.
right? If you have your starting lineup, because all right, let's just say, and this is why I like Connor. This is why I liked going in Connor as like he's my set it and forget it running back.
Yep.
Now I can play matchup based with only one position. Now I can go and say, do I like Zamir White or Zach Moss this week better? That's the choice I have to make.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, without an injury or bye week, I'm not starting Keon Coleman over Pittman, Collins, or A.J. Brown unless they're just having horrible seasons. I'm not starting Jameson Williams over those guys. I'm not starting Rashid Shaheed over those guys. So I already have my 3 wide receivers set. My quarterback's already set with Josh Allen. My tight end's already set with Kittle. So I have one position on a weekly basis that I need to worry about. Well, and make a choice for.
Yeah, and that's the situation you get into with the 0 RB too. Is you want to find those lock in positions like we talked about. But like I said, the hero or the early quarterback premium pick is kind of coincides with a 0 RB. You really don't see it happen in a RB only or a 0 wide receiver because really nobody does 0 wide receiver that often because you lose so much value so quickly, even though there's a lot of talent in this league. But to me, you have to decide it's Allen or Hurts or Mahomes. If you really think Mahomes is going to be the QB1 again this year, you got to decide what's the cutoff point on the player that if he's available. If he's not longer available, I'm entertaining quarterback. Because to me, that's how I feel like in these quarterback premiums. If Saquon's still sitting there, if Henry's still sitting there, I'm not pulling the trigger on Josh Allen. Because I just think that the value drops off so much at that running back position. You have 2 guys that could finish in the top 5 in that position. Same thing goes if Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams were there. As well, I'm not pulling the trigger on Allen because of the opportunity of those 2 guys where they can finish.
That's what I was just about to say is that if Devontae Adams or Marvin Harrison were there, I wouldn't have picked Josh Allen.
Yeah, then that's what you just got to decide what's your cutoff point and when you want to go there because you're pulling the trigger on this guy ahead of somebody that you really like. Like, yeah, I understand Josh Allen could still be the QB1 again this year and blow it up on a week-to-week basis. But you also could grab someone like Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry that finishes top 5 and you're getting him in the second round because the opportunity's there. And so you really got to weigh your options. Like, what's my cutoff point when you're going QB premium?
Right.
Let's talk about hero running back. Let's move on to that one because I think this one's an interesting strategy this year. Like, we saw it a lot in the previous years because of how much ADP was lower for these bigger wide receivers. And now we're seeing everything kind of bubble up to the top, and a lot of running backs are going down, which allows you to get value on a round-by-round basis for running back.
So there are 2 teams. I can make an argument. 3 teams went hero running back in this draft that we're looking at. So you had team 3 with Christian McCaffrey, you had team 9 with Breece Hall, and then you had team 10 with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a huge fan.
You didn't say Jonathan Taylor, team 11.
I wouldn't say that's a hero running. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you got 5 receivers and 1 running back in the first 6 rounds. I consider that a hero running back.
Yeah, maybe. I am not a huge fan of this. And I'm not a huge fan of this strategy to wait a long time to go and get another running back. I think that I value the James Cooks and the Joe Mixons. I value them over Tank Dell and Amari Cooper
Zay Flowers.
and Zay Flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather have that second position secured up because there can be a run on running backs later on. And when you miss out there's plenty of wide receivers. Let's just preface this by saying there's plenty of wide receivers in this draft. Yes, you miss out on the high volume guys and the top end guys. There's a reason they're getting drafted there. But there's plenty of guys later on that can emerge and make an impact. I mean, you're looking at Mike Williams in the 12th round. You're looking at Cortland Sutton in the 10th round. I hate what Team 9 did. Like, I love getting like the stacked value up top. But all right, you go Marvin Harrison, Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, Tank Dell, Joe Burrow, right?
But
I'm fine with that. But where you went Godwin, I would have much rather had Mozart there.
Yeah, I would have gone Mozart or Moss right there.
Yeah. And then you still have D-Hop. And then you're fine. Like everything else is fine right there.
But the Godwin pick
you're starting Breece Hall, and then your second running back is Zeke. And then unless he's going, like we said, getting 1 touchdown, a game.
Yeah, the other thing too, I don't know if everybody can see it just because we have this here. You see Burrow here. It's behind us. So let me see if we can pull our camera down for a second, hide us for a second, so you could see. He's talking about how Team 9 went Breece Hall, Harrison, Diggs, Moore, Dell, then Burrow. Great for that hero running back. But now this 7th round, there's still value at running back, but went Godwin and Hopkins back-to-back. Had he went Mostert, Moss, even Javonte Williams, Singletary, somebody with volume here.
Jaylen Warren. I mean, go and get another guy that has high upside potential. Now you have 3 running backs on your team, and it's Breece Hall, Zeke, and Antonio Gibson. And even though you have Godwin, and I don't mind Godwin, and I don't mind Hopkins, I like those players. But even though you have those guys, they're not finding their way into your starting lineup with the guys you have stacked up top.
Correct.
So what's the purpose of having that when you don't have a full team? Whereas like Team 3, I love what they did there. I really like what they did. They have Christian McCaffrey. They go and load up on other talent. So you still have look. I mean, that is a really, really talented roster of the first 6 picks. McCaffrey, Ayuk, Evans, Devonta Smith, Mark Andrews, and Terry McLaurin. Okay, let's just say you have an off week or there's an injury to one of like your top receivers. McLaurin, you still have out there. I love JSN. They get him later on. Having Tony Pollard, is he going to get a volume? Is he going to get volume? No, because Tajay Spears is there. But he's still a good enough play to match up with Christian McCaffrey that you have a top-end tight end. And that's the other thing that Team 9 didn't do. In those picks,
tight end.
No tight end.
Yeah.
And now I like what they did. Freiermuth and Musgrave back-to-back. Like, that's great.
The way to hinge your bets there.
Totally. Love what they did there. But if I'm going like a true hero running back and like the first 6 picks, 1 running back in that, I'm getting a tight end.
See, I also think I agree with the Godwin pick here. I also think the Tua pick is a mistake that 9 did too as well, because had they faded Tua, I wouldn't have argued as much if they went Daniels because of the upside there, but if they faded the quarterback position here, they still could have got Gus, Tajay Spears, they could have got Chase Brown, they could have got Jerome Ford, another guy in the running back depth that would get opportunity, and then they would have had 7 and 9 be running backs. They wouldn't have had to go with Zeke here. They could have went with a tight end like Schultz. They could have went with Hawkinson and one of these guys late for a late Hawkinson. So
Team 10 is kind of like another prime example of like how to really do the hero running back. You go and get Jahmyr Gibbs, then you go and get a stud at Devontae Adams. Go and get your quarterback.
Except they took Gibbs and Montgomery. That's the hard part.
That's the hard. But we've seen games last year where they both end up doing really well.
Yeah, but they could have instead they could have went Swift or Stevenson right here.
Sure,
easily.
I don't like Swift as much, but they could have went Stevenson based on that value. Are you really going to get that? But I'm just saying, positionally wise, you go and get Gibbs and then Devontae Adams and Mahomes and Cooper Kupp and T. Higgins, and you're stacked up there. You got your 3 starting wide receivers. You got a quarterback or tight end within those picks. You have your hero running back with Jahmyr Gibbs. Now you can go and get another running back. That's probably where the value where I'm going and getting one more guy.
Yeah.
Unless there's a guy that really falls down to me at wide receiver, I'm probably at that point going and getting a running back.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like what Team 11 did in the hero either. Like, they didn't take a hero in first round, but because they're on that swing, they knew they were going to get a top-tier running back to be their anchor. Hero running back, anchor running back, whatever term you want to use. And then they went a flurry.
He's an anchor bean.
Huh?
He's an anchor bean.
You had Waddle, Neighbors, Allen, Pickens in a row. Fantastic picks at wide receiver. You have 5 in a row. Now, Pickens is not making your starting lineup. That's where going with somebody like Montgomery instead of that there in that 6th round, or going with Kittle here, or going with Burrow, Prescott, Murray, a quarterback here, would have been a better opportunity to then not having to go with Lawrence and double up with Cousins because you want to hinge your bets on a quarterback position and then hinge your bets on the tight end position here, even though I think you can run Goddard solo by himself and not have to get odded. But I agree. I think probably Team 3 did the best job at it. Their lineup doesn't wow me, but I love the way they did it. They did it the way you should do in terms of.
I don't know. That's a pretty good lineup, man.
It is, but to me, I'm saying the way they did it. Talking personnel out of the picture, getting that tight end or quarterback in the first 6 rounds. If you only get your one hero running back, then still going to get a quality at the other position that you didn't get, which was Jordan Love here for the quarterback position. And then moving on, still getting quality people in Chase Brown, JSN, Josh Downs, and then Ty Chandler, too, as well, is going to have an impact as a running back position in Minnesota. I think through and through, Team 3 did a solid job going with that strategy.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Let's take a quick break. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and we'll be right back with some more draft strategy. So we're talking about draft strategy here. Before we jump into the last 2 points we want to talk about briefly, we want to talk about an opportunity here for some swag. We're on a push to 500 subscribers here.
Push to 500.
When we hit that 500th subscriber, we are going to do a randomization and give somebody a swag, whether it be a hat or a T-shirt. It'll have our logo up here. It'll have our helmet logo that you could see right down here, and we'll make it fun for you guys. So don't forget to like, subscribe.
John O's Lawrence Taylor jersey.
No, I'm not giving away that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Send it to your friends. Although if you want to try and win your league, maybe don't send it to your friends, but send it to your friends anyway. Let's get to a good point where we can continue to give you great content, great opportunities, great advice, especially throughout the season, because we're going to be dropping episode after episode, week to week. All right? So let's move on. I'm going to touch briefly here because I don't think this is a strategy that is pertinent to this year's draft that like it was in the past. And that's your tight end premium or your Travis Kelce type of draft where you take tight end in the first round. Even the first 2 rounds this year. I think if you're doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice because I feel like the top tight ends kind of sandwich themselves a little bit closer in their tiers than they used to be in the past.
I think we talked about this a little bit in our episode last week that we did when we were doing the mock draft. I think Laporta is the first one off the board, then it's Kels, and that's going like the second, third turn. And that's fine. Like if you guys really want, if like the top end wide receivers really fall off the board and are not available for you and you need a pass catcher, I don't think it's a bad strategy to do. I'm not personally doing it. I'd rather wait until the third or fourth round. I'd rather go and get a quarterback premium there, which kind of brings us to our other point. If you are going to go high value tight end, you might want to hold off on getting a high end quarterback as well.
Yeah.
Because it's really going to hinge you on the other skill positions, because there is a big fall off with running back. There is a big fall off with wide receiver, especially those really, really high volume guys. And if you go and waste a second round pick on Laporta, he's kind of a perfect guy for a bookend.
Well, but, yeah.
For like if you're drafting 1-2,
Yeah.
To go and get Laporta in the second, to make sure you get him before the swing guy, and then pick a wide receiver, or because of those four guys, you're probably okay with one of them.
Yeah.
That are going to go there.
So that's where, like, to me, we're not drafting tight ends in the first round. We're not recommending drafting a tight end in the first round. I'm recommending not even drafting in the second round, unless, of course, the strategy we're talking about here is what to do when you are on the bookends.
Right.
And that's an opportunity to, and the only reason I say it's an opportunity to do it there is because one of the things that you and I talked about a lot is when you're on the bookends, you have an opportunity to take a guy at value. And because of the long wait time before your next pick, you could take a guy, I don't want to call it reaching, because it really isn't reaching. You have an opportunity to go get a guy that you like, that you know is not going to be there for you in the next round.
We'll call this strategy settle and reach.
Yeah,
right?
Settle and reach. We'll use the term reach, even though I don't think it's a reach.
Yeah, but so you are
a calculated reach.
Yeah, so you are letting a guy fall to you and taking the value at ADP, because there's always going to be, every round there's going to be a guy that falls to you.
Yeah.
So take that with your first pick, and then the second pick, go and reach for a guy that his ADP is probably showing that he's going to be, 10 picks after that. Don't be afraid to go get him. It might be 18 picks after that. Don't be afraid to go get him if that's a guy you really want on your team, because you don't want to risk not getting him at all, because that can happen. Especially, we talked in the last draft that we did, which was a 14 team, where there were heavy swings at both quarterback and tight end. If you're sitting there like, I really want Malik Neighbors, and you're at the 11th pick, and the third round comes, and you make your third round selection, and you know that he's not going. Malik Neighbors is probably going to go around that pick. So let's say you really, really want Keenan Allen. Go and pick him with your fourth pick, because he's not going to make it back for the fifth.
Yeah.
So if you really, really want him, and that's a guy you're like, I don't want to leave the draft without getting him, never be afraid to. And the turn is the best place to do that, where you can really double up on guys. What I love doing at the turn is doubling up on a position, doubling up on again, or doing like a running back, wide receiver, best available. That's a really good strategy too. Is like you just take two positions, get the best available.
Yeah, and one of the things that you could call it, like we said, take ADP and ADP reach, ADP my guy is another one too, because this is an opportunity to go get the guy you want, because 9 times out of 10 they're not going to make it back to you.
His and hers.
Yeah. So one of the things I agree is, like, the perfect example, you said Malik Neighbors. Now he's probably going to go late third round, but if you're on the turn at the second pick, in the draft, and all of a sudden you go one big pick here, you get the best available that falls to you there in that beginning of the third round, for you to take him 8 picks early is not that much of a reach if that's a guy that you believe is going to finish above those other receivers that are there. And you let your league mates say, oh, what a reach. Oh my God, I can't believe you took him that early. So what? Because he's not making back to you in the fourth round. We know that.
Yeah.
So I like this strategy on the bookends, which is why I like drafting from the bookends, because my team tends to look the way I want it to, because I'm not stuck there being blinded by ADP in every single pick. So I think it's one of those things that it's a draft strategy to do when you are on the bookends, versus being in the middle of the draft, where it's more of a see where the value drops to you and take the picks there.
So one of like the best things about, being a top 3 pick is that you get to kind of choose who you're going to have. Like, there's not everyone missing, but I've drafted in the first in the top 4 picks in our league in each of the last 2 seasons, and now I'm drafted in the top 2 picks this year. And it is really like I typically don't like drafting the top end of the draft. I like it because I get my player, but I hate it because I'm not dictating the draft. And I'm basically sitting there and waiting for the draft to dictate itself to me and has to show me what it's doing, and then I have to react to that. So, if I'm going first overall and I'm going Christian McCaffrey, I'm not even joking. Like, there are times I just walk away. Let the draft happen, walk away, and then 20 picks later, it's coming back to me, and I'm like, okay, what happened? Where am I sitting now? What's happened in this? Was there a run on quarterbacks? Was there was there a second tight end that got picked in here? Was there a run on running backs that just everyone went running back, and now wide receivers fell to me? And now what am I going to do? Whereas at like the 11th and 12th pick, you really have the chance to be like, I'm going to go back-to-back receivers here, or I'm going to go back-to-back running backs here, or I'm going to go and get my guy here. And you have, I think, a better chance to kind of, all right, you're seeing the value drop to you within a reasonable, there's going to be guys that get overreached on. Last year, we both saw it. We both knew, Bijan was getting taken in the top half. And we're like, great, thank you, guys. Love it. Because guys fell down to the second half.
Yeah.
And we, I drafted in the first overall last year. And I didn't really have the chance to reap the benefits of one of your dumb teammates or league mates overdrafting a player in the first round. And now I'm sitting there and I'm being like, cool, I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb and A.J. Brown at the 12th pick and the 13th pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to back and get stud wide receivers.
Which is what Jesse did.
Which is exactly what Jesse did, or league winner, because we had league mates that overinflated and overvalued players.
Quarterback in the first round.
And Bijan in the first round. You get 1 or 2 of those, and now all of a sudden that swing happens. So that's where I love drafting 10, 11, 12.
Well, that's my
favorite.
Year, just so you guys know, I've seen a lot of Saquon, Jonathan Taylor at that tail end swing around.
Yeah.
And if that's sitting there for you, or I've seen also a lot of
Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson.
Or Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, those 2 double ups there are dangerous, and you don't want to let your league mate that happen to your league mates either. That's what scares me, is those middle round picks, 6, 7, 8, can really shake up the draft in the first round and make or break it, and give those people at the tail end of your draft a higher advantage. The one thing I will say, too, about the bookends, and the last point we'll make here before we close out this draft strategy episode, is Chris was saying, I like to go wide receiver, running back opportunities there. That's the beauty of it. It's you can actually be very successful on the bookends with a hero RB or a zero RB because of the back-to-back value at that position. So say in your first 4 rounds, you went zero RB and you went wide receiver, tight end. Now you're coming around, you get 2 back-to-back. You can go get Connor and you can go get Kamara, and boom, boom, like we saw in the draft we just did in that 14 team.
Right.
And you've got 2 quality zero RB guys there in the 5th, 6th round, and you're happy to be. And then now you can focus on the positions you don't have yet.
Yeah.
And you don't get to do that in the middle rounds when you're trying to go to those zero RB strategy or hero RB strategy, because there is so much wait time between the next one. And really the bookends to me are your 11th and 12th and your 1 and 2. You can sometimes stretch it out to the 3rd pick or the 10th pick, but really it's those first 2 last 2 picks where you see the most extreme back-to-back values, where somebody's not going to drop to you. What you see happen is if you're the 10th pick, you pick a guy there, and then 2 people, if they're doing the strategy of reaching for a guy because they want to get him, somebody's going to fall to you in that second round.
No, obviously a lot of the home leagues that you guys are playing in, it's great because you do know the people around you, which I think is a huge advantage for you to understand what those players typically do in drafts, because it allows you to be able to go and take those reaches because you know that you're up in 6 picks and you're on a swing. So if you're at the 3rd pick and you take, in the 2nd round, you take a guy, and the guy in the 2nd and the 1st spot, if you know them and you know what they're going to do, you can kind of predict those 4 picks that are going to be in between you. And so you can kind of overreach on a guy to go and get him
knowing that another guy's going to
knowing
fall.
that another guy is going to fall.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that we do really well, and we have for a while, is we've kept our draft board since 2012. So we know, not every year the league mates is still in there, but we have the people who are still the original OG.
We've had some
league mates.
murderer rows.
Yeah, but we have what their draft strategies are, and we know a couple people tend to do the same thing year after year, and they're successful doing it. But it's like Chris said, there's an advantage if you know that they don't touch a quarterback until at least the 6th round. They have never done it in their entire thing, and you want to grab that quarterback in that 4th round. You can grab that quarterback in the 4th round, not be afraid to lose it in the picks right after you on the swing around. So that's our draft strategy episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any draft strategy of your own that you recommend this year or that you'd like to do that we have not mentioned, please send it in here and we'll be happy to comment on our thoughts with that too as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we have episode, if you haven't checked it out yet, we talked about the week 1 preseason, especially a lot of these rookies and some of these guys we really want to see that did get playing time, and what our thoughts and the impact for the season going on. Go check that out. There'll be a link down below. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.